25th of October. Dear Margaret, your letter came again, and I am going to tell you the true thing first, the way you taught me, before I arrange a single piece of the furniture. And the true thing is that it came, and that I am glad of it past my power to say, and that there is something inside it I cannot quite set straight. A chair an inch out of its place in a room I know by heart. And I have decided to tell you about the something rather than smooth it over. Smoothing things over for you is a habit I am trying to break out here in the quiet, where there is no one to perform for and therefore no reason to perform, and where I have found that the only company that keeps is the kind you do not lie to. It came fast again. I will not labour the point, because I laboured it last time until I had worn the paper of my own argument soft at the folds. And because I have, as I told you, set the counting down and find I cannot pick it up again even when I try. But I gave Mr. Thresher my last letter, the long one, the one with the bakehouse in it, only a little while ago, on a morning I could not now number for you if you held my feet to Mr. Oates's own fire. And here is your answer to it, already in my two hands, with the bakehouse taken up by name, and Mr. Oates spelled the way I spelled him and the fog asked after, as though you had felt it yourself through the wall of the world that is supposed to stand between your kitchen and mine. So it came faster than a letter can come. I have stopped asking the post how it does what it does. I have decided to treat the speed of your letters the way the village treats the fog and the long road and the wedge of light that will not slide on the church tower, as a local weather, a thing that is simply so here that the people who belong here would think it strange of me to remark upon, and that I will therefore remark upon only to you, in the dark, with the lamp lit, where remarking is still allowed. And it is a good letter, Margaret. I want to say that plainly and let it stand before I get to the chair that is out of place, because the chair is a small thing, and the goodness is the large thing, and I will not have the order of them confused. The boys are well. You led with it again, bless you, knowing it is the first wall I put my back against. The elder has moved on from engines, you say, and taken up the building of a great rambling town out of wood blocks and clothes pegs and whatever else will stand, a town he adds to every evening and forbids anyone to tidy, with streets he has named, and a mayor who is a cotton reel, and a fierce, ongoing argument about where the church should go. And you wrote that line, "He will not have the church in the middle. He says it goes at the edge where you can hear it but not see it." And I had to put the letter down, Margaret, because of course he is right. That is exactly where the church goes. That is where it is here. And a child who has never been within 100 miles of this valley has built it true out of clothes pegs on your kitchen floor. And I do not know what to do with that except tell you, and have told you, and feel a little better and a little stranger for the telling. The younger has given up the tooth and halfpenny enterprise, the gap having filled, and gone into the business of collecting, you said. Stones mostly, and a brass button, and one snail shell he is convinced is valuable and carries in a matchbox lined with a scrap of your good flannel that you have decided not to mention missing. Father is father. You used his word again, the one that is not love and not quite anything else, and added that he has taken to sitting longer by the fire and saying less, but that the less he says is kinder than the more used to be, which is a sentence I have read 4 times and will likely read 400, because it is the truest small thing anyone has written me in a year, and because I think it may be the whole of what age is for, if it is for anything. The slow boiling down of a man until what is left of his talk is only the kind part, the rest gone off as steam. The cat with the bent ear has been displaced from the airing cupboard by the arrival of the winter linen, and has taken his revenge by sleeping precisely where each person most wishes to sit, which, I think we must agree, is the behaviour of a creature with a moral position and the will to enforce it. You sat on the bench again. You told me you did, on a bright, cold afternoon this week with... And here it is, Margaret. Here is the chair, an inch out of place, and I am going to set it down exactly as you wrote it, and then tell you why it has been with me for 3 days. With, you said, the new one coming up pale beside the angelica, the tall one I didn't plant and don't know, that wasn't there in the summer. That is the whole of the sentence. You wrote it lightly, in among the bench and the cold cup and the going over of the year, in your way of laying a large thing down so quietly that it might pass a careless reader clean by. I am not, where you are concerned, a careless reader. I have never been able to afford to be. A new one, coming up pale beside the angelica, tall, that you did not plant and do not know, and that was not there in the summer. Margaret, I have read every letter you have ever sent me, going back to the ones you wrote when I was away the first time, in the other life, the one I came here to set down and not pick up. And you do not, as a rule, fail to know a plant. You knew them all the afternoon I last sat in that garden with you, 3 years and more ago now, when we planted the cornflowers and you went round the beds afterward, naming every green thing in them for me, like a woman saying her prayers. The common names and the long Latin ones both, the rhubarb and the cornflowers to come, and the sweet Sicily and the angelica against the wall, that you told me even then had been there before the old woman who sold you the house, had come from away, wrapped in a damp cloth in somebody's grandmother's hand, and gone into the ground and never been moved. You knew all of them. It is one of the fixed stars of my picture of you, that you know what is growing in your own ground. And now there is a tall, pale thing come up beside the oldest plant in the garden, the one that came from away, and you do not know it. And you wrote to tell me so in the same breath as the cold cup, as though it were weather and not, as though it were not the thing that has had me sitting up these 3 nights with the lamp turned low. I'm going to try to be reasonable about it, here, on the page, with you, because being reasonable on the page with you is the only reasoning I trust anymore. There are reasonable explanations, and I have lined them up like good soldiers. A seed blew in. Gardens are full of volunteers. A bird carried something and dropped it, and it took. The angelica itself self-sows, you have said so, the great umbels going to seed and scattering. Perhaps this pale, tall thing is only the angelica's own child, come up in a form you did not expect, leggy and strange in its first year, before it settles to the shape you know. Perhaps it is some ordinary roadside thing that has only ever grown until now, where you did not happen to look. These are all good soldiers, and they stand up straight, and I have inspected them one by one, and I cannot quite make myself salute. Because of the timing of it, Margaret. Because it came up beside the angelica, the plant from away, in the season when everything else in your garden is lying down to sleep, and because, and this is the part I have not been able to put down, it came up there in the very weeks that I have been here, in this valley, learning a thing about plants that come from away, that I had not yet written to you, and that you could not have known. That is the chair out of place. Not the plant itself. Plants are the most innocent things there are. They do only what the ground and the light tell them. But the rhyme of it, the rhyme between a tall, pale, unknown thing rising by the angelica in your garden, and the week I have just had in mine. For I have found a garden too, Margaret. That is the thing I sat down tonight to tell you. The bakehouse of this letter, the green door of it. I have found a garden out beyond the edge of the village, behind a wall, kept by a woman I had not met, and it is full. I am choosing the word, and I will stand by it. It is full of plants that grow nowhere else. And I walked in it 3 days ago, in the cold, bright morning after the fog broke, and I came home, and that same afternoon your letter was waiting with its pale, tall stranger rising by the angelica, and the two of them, the garden out here and the garden at home, met in my chest the way your angelica and Mrs. Sorrel's dried root met in it last week, and have not since consented to be parted. So let me tell it to you in order, since order is the one comfort I can still reliably manufacture, and let me start where it started, which was with the cold. The fog broke, finally, the way Mrs. Pell said it would. She came down on the third morning and looked out of the public room window at a valley laid bare and bright and said, "That's the back of it broken," and was right, as she is always right about the weather, which I have come to think is less prophecy than a kind of long marriage to the sky. And behind the fog, where the fog had been, was the cold. Not the damp, grey cold of the fog itself, which is a cold that sits on you like a wet coat, but the other kind, the hard, clean cold of a clear sky, the cold that has stars in it. It came in the night after the fog left, and it put the first real frost on the valley, and I woke to a window furred white on the inside, and a square below me gone silver. Every cobble rhymed, the well roof white, the grass of the green stiff and pale and crunching under the boots of the first person to cross it, whose footprints I watched fill in slowly behind him as the sun got to them. The year had been going over for a while. You have been watching your own do it, the rhubarb cut back, the cornflowers scattered. But the frost is the thing that makes it official, the notice nailed to the door. After the frost, there is no more pretending the warm part of the year is merely resting. It has gone, and the valley knows it, and the valley has begun, in 100 small ways, to draw in. I like to watch a place draw in for winter, Margaret. I did not know that about myself until this year. At home, the drawing in always happened around me while I was occupied with the counting house of my own life, and looked up to find it already done. The world battened, the dark arrived. Here I have had nothing to do but watch, and the watching has been one of the great unexpected pleasures of this whole strange season. The village pulls its warmth inward like a hand closing. The bakehouse, yes, it was gold again the very next foggy morning, exactly as I told you it would be. Mr. Oates turning his loaves as though the clear, bright, shut-up morning had never happened. And I have stopped, as I promised you I would, asking the door questions. The bakehouse runs harder now. There is a fruited loaf most days, not only sometimes, because the sitting-up nights are coming, the long human watches that want something sweet, and a village that knows its winter lays in sweetness, the way another might lay in coal. Mrs. Pell has brought the heavy curtain down across the inn door, the one that lives folded over a beam all summer, so that coming in now you push through a weight of cloth into the warm, and the door's draught is broken before it reaches the fire. The woodpile under the eaves has doubled. Anwen has finished the grey scarf at last. It turned out to be a scarf, I'm glad to report, and a handsome one. And it is around the fierce child's neck now, whether the fierce child wills it or no, and has started something larger and greyer that I have learned not to ask the purpose of, on the principle that to ask Anwen the purpose of her knitting is to be told, kindly, that I will see. And I have drawn in too, a little, which is its own news. I have moved my evenings wholly downstairs to the long table by the fire. I have given up the pretense that I will get any useful brooding done up here in the cold of the room with the lamp. I take my supper in the warm now, and stay in it. And the brown dog has formally transferred his nightly weight from my boots under the table to my boots by the fire, which I take to be a promotion. Hartle and I have progressed from the silent passing of salt to the silent sharing of the fire's best corner, turn and turn about, a courtesy neither of us has ever named. The blue-eyed man. I should learn his name, and will. I keep meaning to, and then the moment for asking passes, and to ask now would be to confess I never knew it. The blue-eyed man has taken to telling me things about the village, unasked, in the way they all have of being kind by telling rather than asking. And it was he, 3 evenings ago, over a dish of something Mrs. Pell makes with the last of the year's apples, who told me about the garden, though he did not call it that and did not, I think, mean to send me there.
We had been talking. They had been talking. I had been listening, which is my usual place in it, about the frost and what it had taken, whose late beans it had finished and whose it had spared, the small agricultural accountancy of a farming people. And somebody, the old woman by the fire whose grandmother bought her wedding bread from Mr. Oates's grandfather, said that the frost never touched the far garden, that it never did, that you could go up there the morning after the hardest frost of the year and find it green as June. And there was the small murmur that means a thing everyone in the room holds in common and no one thinks remarkable. And the talk moved on, the way it always moves on here, just as I have caught the scent of the thing I want. The far garden, green as June the morning after the hardest frost. I held it the way I have learned to hold these things, lightly, in an open hand, not grabbing, because grabbing makes them close. And later, when the table broke up, I said to the blue-eyed man, as idly as I could manage, that I had not known there was a garden worth the name out here. And he said, Mrs. Yarrow's, as though that explained it, which here it does. And then he said the thing I have been carrying ever since. He said, she grows what won't grow. And he wished me good night, and went out through the heavy curtain into the cold, and left me with it. She grows what won't grow. I lay awake on it. You know I would. And in the morning, another clear one, the frost even harder, the window furred thick enough to write in, and I did write in it. I wrote your name in the frost on my own window like a boy, and then was glad no one could see me do it. In the morning I dressed warm and went to find the far garden, the way I went to find the bakehouse, by walking, with no better map than a direction and the word of a man with blue eyes. It is out past a church, and past the post office with its blue door, and past the last of the cottages where the lane stops being a lane the village keeps and becomes a track the village merely tolerates, running up the shoulder of the east hill, between 2 old hedges gone to bramble. I had not been so far out of the village on that side before. It is strange, Margaret, how small the inhabited world becomes when you stop driving yourself across it. How a man who once thought nothing of a city can find that his whole lived map has shrunk to a square, an inn, a church, a green door, a bakehouse, and the few hundred yards of lane that join them, and that to walk beyond that map is to feel, faintly, the old flutter of going somewhere, the small, adventurous fear I had thought I had used up entirely. I walked up the track in the cold with my breath going before me, and the frost loud under my boots, and the village dropping away behind and below. And I will tell you that I was happier in that half hour than I have been in I cannot say how long, with no errand that mattered, and no sum to balance, and only a wall to find that a man with blue eyes had told me grew what would not grow. And I found the wall. You come on it suddenly, where the track bends round a stand of black, wind-bent thorns. A wall, an old one, high, higher than a man, of the same dark stone as everything here, but older looking even than the church. The stones smaller and rounder and more lichened, set without much mortar in the old, dry way, and so thoroughly grown over with ivy and with something else, something with small, dark leaves I did not know, that in places the wall is more plant than stone. It runs a long way. I could not see the end of it in either direction. It goes round the shoulder of the hill and out of sight. And it was warm, Margaret. That is the first thing I knew, before I saw a single growing thing, standing at the foot of that wall in a hard frost, with the rest of the valley silver behind me.
The wall was warm. Not warm to the eye, warm to the body. There was a warmth coming off it and over it, the way warmth comes off the side of a banked fire you cannot see, or off the bakehouse window. And the frost that lay on everything else in the world that morning did not lie within a yard of the foot of that wall, where the grass was green and soft and beaded only with ordinary dew. I stood in the line where the frost stopped. I put one boot in the silver and one in the green, and looked down at my own 2 feet standing in 2 different seasons, and I felt the old flutter turn over in me and become something quieter and larger and harder to name.
There is a gate. Of course there is a gate. A wall that runs out of sight in both directions must have a gate, and I walked along the warm green strip at its foot until I came to it. A wooden gate, very old, silvered with age, set deep in a stone arch, and over the arch the ivy and the small dark unknown leaf grown so thick that the whole thing is a green mouth in a green wall, and through the gate, between its weathered bars, green. Green and more than green. I stood at that gate, Margaret, in the cold, bright morning, and looked through the bars into a garden in full leaf and flower in the last week of October, and I smelled it. That is the thing I cannot get across to you, the smell of it coming through the bars, warm and growing and impossibly summer, green sap and turned earth, and a dozen flowers I could not name, and one, underneath them all, that I could, that stopped me where I stood with my hand already on the latch. Angelica. The high, green, resinous smell of angelica. Your angelica. The smell of the candied piece I carried in my coat until it was gone, coming out through an old gate in an old wall on the side of a frozen hill at the far edge of the only world I now have. I had not lifted the latch. I want that on the record for what follows. I had not yet lifted the latch, had not yet decided to, was still standing in the held breath before the decision, when a voice on the other side of the wall, quite close, quite calm, not at all surprised, said, "You'll be the one from away. You'd best come in before you let the warm out." So I lifted the latch and went in, and I shut the gate behind me carefully, the way you shut a gate when a woman has just told you not to let the warm out. And I stood inside the wall in the last week of October in a garden that did not know it. I must try to give you the garden, Margaret, because you of all people will want it, and because giving it to you is the nearest I will ever come to walking you through it on my arm, which is a thing I found myself wishing I could do almost before I was through the gate, that you were on my arm, that you of the named beds and the prayers said over the green things were here to tell me what I was looking at, because I could not, hardly any of it. It is not large, the far garden, not as a great house's garden is large. It is perhaps the size of the green at home, the village green I mean, walled all round in that old dark stone and sheltered by the wall and by the shoulder of the hill behind it, so that no wind reaches it. And it lies open to the south, so that what sun there is pours in and is held. But the size is the last ordinary thing about it. Inside the wall, it was warm as a June noon. I took off my coat within 5 minutes and carried it, and was still warm. There were insects in the air. Bees, Margaret, working bees, in the last week of October, going about the flowers as though it were high summer and they had a season's worth of time. There was bird song, the real summer kind. And everywhere, in beds laid out in no pattern I could read, on frames and up the warm walls and spilling over low stone edges, there was growing, green and rank and flowering and seeding all at once, as though the garden held every part of the year at the same time and saw no reason to choose. And the woman, Mrs. Yarrow. She had been kneeling at a bed near the gate with her hands in the earth to the wrist, and she got up as I came in, unhurried, wiping the earth from her hands onto an apron that had clearly given up the fight against earth long ago. And she looked at me, and I looked at her. She is old, Margaret, though I could not begin to put a number to it and have given up trying to put numbers to anything here. Old the way the wall is old, which is to say weathered into a kind of permanence, brown and lined and folded, with pale eyes gone the colour of the sky behind frost, and a quantity of grey hair pinned up anyhow with what I am fairly sure was a twig. She is small and bent a little and moves slowly, and there is nothing the least bit frail about her. She has the forearms of a woman who has turned earth every day of a very long life. And hands. I keep coming back to the hands of the people here. Mr. Thresher's careful, Mr. Oates's flowered, Mrs. Sorrel's absence of all dirt. Hands so deeply and permanently of the soil that the soil seemed less a thing on them than a thing they were partly made of. She looked at me with those frost-pale eyes, and she was not surprised by me. None of them are ever surprised by me. And she said, "Sorrel said you'd find your way up sooner or later. The ones from away mostly do. It calls to you, I expect." And she turned and went back to her bed, and left me to follow or not, which I have learned is how a welcome is offered here. Not with ceremony, but with a turned back and an absence of objection, a door left open behind a person walking away. I followed. I walked behind her down the middle of that impossible garden in my shirt sleeves, with my coat over my arm and the bees working and the angelica smell everywhere. And I will tell you that I have not, in years, felt anything so strongly as I felt walking up that garden, the simple animal wrongness and rightness of it at once. Wrongness because it was October, and this could not be. Rightness because every sense I owned was being told it was June, and the body does not argue with June. She named things for me as we went, the way you named things for me in your garden, except that where your naming was a comfort, a litany of the known, hers was the opposite, a litany of the impossible, each name a small, soft blow. She would stop at a bed and put out one earth-coloured hand and say a name and walk on. And I trailed her, saying the names over to myself, trying to hold them, and lost most of them, and will give you the few I kept. There was a low, spreading plant with leaves like grey velvet, and small flowers the deep particular blue of the hour after sunset, that she called moth comfort, and said opened only at dusk and only for the moths, and was not found this side of anywhere. There was a tall thing, taller than I am, with a single heavy head of pale green bells that gave off, when she brushed it, a smell I can only call the smell of a room you have not been in since childhood. Not a flower smell at all, a place smell, dust and sun and old paper. And she did not name that one, only touched it and said, "That one remembers for you, if you let it, and it's not always kind, so mind it," and walked on. And I did not touch it, Margaret. I confess I gave it a wide berth, and have thought about it every day since. There was a whole bed of what looked at first like ordinary feverfew, the small white daisies of it, except that the flowers turned slowly, but I stood and watched, and they did turn, not toward the sun, but toward us, toward whoever stood at the edge of the bed, 100 small white faces coming round to attend you. And she saw me see it and said, "They like the company. They get little enough." And there was something in how she said it that was the loneliest thing I have heard out here, and I have heard a few. And there was the angelica. She kept it for last, I think,
though I cannot be sure she keeps anything for anything. But it was at the top of the garden, against the warmest stretch of the south wall, and it was the largest stand of it I have ever seen or imagined. A green thicket of it, taller than Mrs. Yarrow and nearly as tall as me. The great ribbed hollow stems and the broad bright leaves and the seed heads going off like slow green fireworks. The whole of it humming with the bees. The smell of it so strong up there that it was almost a taste. The high, clean, resinous green smell that I have carried in my coat and in my chest for weeks. And I stood in front of it, Margaret, in that warm, wrong garden, and I thought of your wall and your stand of it, smaller, gone over now for your winter, with the new, pale stranger rising beside it. And I thought of Mrs. Sorrel's dried root in her green-doored shop, and her saying it has a long root, that people dig it out and it comes back, that once it is in, it is in. And I think Mrs. Yarrow saw the whole of that pass over my face, because she came and stood beside me at the foot of it and looked up into it with me, and she said, "You know this one?" It was not a question. I said I did. I said my sister grew it, at home, against a wall. I said it had come from away, that the woman who sold her the house had said so, brought as a root in a damp cloth generations back from somewhere no one now remembered. And Mrs. Yarrow nodded slowly, looking up into the green, and she said, "Aye, they all did. That's the only kind I keep." And then she said the thing I have brought all this way down the hill and across whatever it is your letters cross, to set down for you tonight. She said, "Everything in this garden came from away, same as you, same as the angelica, carried here by somebody once and put in the ground, and it took. That's the whole trick of it. There's nothing here that grew where it started. There's nothing here that grew where it started, same as you." I have been turning that over for 3 days, Margaret, and I am no nearer the bottom of it. And I have decided, as I decide with most of what is said to me here, to give it to you whole, rather than hand you only the part of it I have managed to digest. Because it is, on the one face of it, the kindest thing anyone has said to me since I came. Kinder than Mrs. Pell's not asking. Kinder than the wave that brought me to the villagers' table. Kinder even than the brown dog's weight on my boots. A garden full of things that came from away and took. A garden, that is to say, full of company for a man who came from away and is, he is beginning to fear and to hope in the same breath, taking. She did not say it to unsettle me. She said it the way you might say to a cold traveller, "There is room at this fire." She was telling me I belonged to the only family the garden kept. And I felt it land as kindness. And I felt my eyes do a thing I will not pretend to you they did not do, standing in the warm in front of the green thicket with the bees in it, being told by an old woman with a twig in her hair that I was the same as the angelica. And then, underneath the kindness, slower, the cold came up. Not the clean frost cold of the morning outside the wall. The other cold. The dark window cold I told you about last week. The one I take out at night and look at. Because if everything in that garden came from away and took, then the next question, the question your brother cannot help but ask, the counting house question that the village has nearly but not quite trained out of me. The next question is whether anything in that garden ever leaves. Whether a thing that came from away and took, and is held in that warm and windless place where the frost does not come, and the bees never stop, and every part of the year happens at once. Whether such a thing ever goes back, ever wants to, ever can. And I stood there wanting very much not to ask it, and being myself, and asking it. I asked her, carefully, the way I asked Mr. Oates what hours he kept, The way you ask the question you are afraid of by dressing it as a smaller question. I asked her whether she ever moved anything out, whether anything she grew was ever taken from the garden and planted elsewhere, carried off the way the angelica was once carried to take somewhere new. And she stopped what she was doing, which she had not done for any of my other questions, and she looked at me with the frost-pale eyes for a moment, as though deciding how much of an answer I had earned or could bear. And she said, "Now and again, a root, a slip. Somebody carries a bit of it off, like your sister's grandmother's grandmother did, and away it goes." And I felt a small, foolish flood of relief. So things do leave. So a thing that came from away is not necessarily kept. And then she finished it, and took the relief away, and gave me instead the sentence I have not slept properly since hearing. She said, "But it's not the garden that goes, you understand? It's only ever a piece. The garden stays. The garden always stays. A bit of it travels and takes root somewhere new and grows up far off, and that far-off bit thinks it's its own self, thinks it's a whole new plant in a whole new place." And here she looked at me very steadily. "But it's the same root underneath. It's all the one root, however far the green of it gets carried. That's the long root. That's what Sorrel will have told you. You can carry a piece 1,000 miles and it'll grow up a stranger to itself. But pull it gently and you'll feel it. It's still joined. It never stops being joined. Once it's took, it's all one thing, here and away both, and the away part doesn't know it, but the root does." I want you to read that again, Margaret, slowly, the way I have read it in my head 100 times since, because I cannot decide. I have genuinely not been able to decide, lying awake, whether it is the most comforting thing or the most frightening thing anyone has ever said to me. And I have begun to suspect that the reason I cannot decide is that it is both at once, and that the village specializes in things that are both at once, and that this may in fact be the whole secret of the place, the agreement underneath all the other agreements, that here the comforting thing and the frightening thing are not opposites, but the same thing seen from two sides, the way the warm wall and the cold wall are the same wall. It is all one root. I am joined still, however far I have been carried, to the bed I grew in, to you, to father, to the boys, to the bench and the angelica, and the kitchen with the bucket in the corner. That is the comfort, and it is a true and enormous one. And I have held it to my chest these 3 nights, like the warm stone of your sitting on the bench. And it is also this, that the away part doesn't know it, but the root does. That I may grow up here a stranger to myself, may take and settle and warm and lose my count of the days and think myself a whole new man in a whole new place, and be wrong, be only the far green end of a root I cannot feel, doing what the root requires, kept where the root has decided to keep me, and calling it healing. I asked her, while I was busy being a fool with my questions, whether there had been others from away, I meant, others carried here and rooted, people and not plants. She did not find the question strange, which here is itself an answer. She named me 1 or 2, unhurried, as fixtures rather than wonders. There was a man, she said, who came up the slow road from Wenley a long while back. She could not say how long and did not try, and I have stopped expecting anyone here to try. Who came thin and grey and sleepless, Much as you came, she said. With a glance at me, I felt to the soles of my boots. And he took a room, and then he took a trade, and then he took a wife. And somewhere in all that taking, he stopped going down to the station of a Sunday to look at the timetable, which he had done every week at first, the way a man checks that a door is still unlocked. And one year he did not go at all, and never went again. And he lies now in the yard by the church under a stone that carries no dates. Because by the end, she said, no one, himself least of all, could have told you them. And he died an old, contented man who had forgotten he had ever come from anywhere, and whose own children think of him as the most rooted thing in the valley. She told it gently, as a kindness. See, it can go well. It can go all the way to a peaceful stone. And I stood in the warm and could not for my life tell whether I had been given a happy ending or shown my own grave. And I have decided, as I decide about most of what is said to me here, that I had been shown both at once, the one stone from the warm side and the cold. The village is its own far garden, Margaret. That is the thing under the man and the timetable and the dateless stone. It is a walled, warm place, full of things that came from away, and took, and held, and stopped, in the end, being able to say where they began, as content and as lost, as that bed of small white faces that turn to watch you because they are starved of company. I am living in the human shape of Mrs. Yarrow's garden. I had not, until she set it in front of me, quite let myself see that the whole village is the thing behind the wall, and that I am already inside it, and have been since the morning the coach set me down on a road that took longer than it should.
And then, because I had not had enough, because there is in me still a clerk who must see every figure entered, even the ones that ruin the sum, I told her about your plant. I had not meant to. I had meant to keep your letter to myself, as I keep everything of yours to myself out here. The one private warmth in a life otherwise gone entirely public, to a village that knows my business better than I do. But she had spoken of a piece carried off and growing up far away by a wall. And there your letter was in my coat over my arm, with its pale, tall stranger risen by the angelica, and the clerk in me could not let the figures sit so close together unreconciled. So I told her. I said that my sister, far off, who keeps the angelica that came from away, had written to me this very week that a new thing had come up beside it, tall and pale and unknown to her, and not there in the summer. And I asked her, lightly, my hand quite steady on my coat, my voice, I think, betraying nothing. I asked her whether she knew what it might be. And Mrs. Yarrow did not say she could not know, a continent away, what was growing in a garden she had never seen. She did not say it was a volunteer, a seedling, a roadside weed, any of my good straight soldiers. She went still again, the second time in our whole hour, and she looked not at me, but down the length of her impossible garden toward the gate and the frozen world beyond it. And she was quiet for long enough that I heard the bees, and then she said, in a voice with no surprise in it at all, only a kind of slow recognition, the voice of a woman confirming a thing she had half expected. Tall and pale, by the old root, come up where it wasn't. And she nodded once to herself, and she said, Aye, they do that. Where there's a piece that came from away and took and held, like her angelica, that's held in her ground how long now? Sometimes, after a long time, something else'll come up by it, find its way up beside it, like to like. The root calls and the kind comes. And then she looked at me, and she said the last of it, the sentence I carried down the hill. It means the away part's woken up to itself, mostly. It means the root's grown strong enough at the far end to start calling on its own.
Your sister's bit of the garden has been there long enough and warm enough kept that it started doing what mine does. You needn't be frightened of it." Which is, Margaret, of all the things she might have said, the one most precisely designed to frighten me. And I do not think she meant it to. And that is the worst of it.
I did not stay much longer after that. I think she saw that I had taken on as much as I could carry. She has the kind of attention that the soil teaches, I imagine. A watchfulness without any push in it. And she let me come down off the high ground of all that talk by setting me small, ordinary tasks for a few minutes, as you would gentle a startled horse by walking it. She had me hold a frame while she tied a fallen stem. She had me carry a trug of cut seed heads to a bench by the wall, and the doing of plain things with my hands in the warm with the bees going steadied me, as plain things always do. And I was grateful to her for it. And I think she knew I was, and neither of us said so, which is the local way, and which I have come to prefer to any amount of saying. But when I made to go, when I had my coat back on, too warm in it the moment I put it on, and had turned towards the gate, she stopped me. She went to the great stand of angelica at the warm wall, and she took a knife from her apron, an old, short, black-handled knife worn to a thin curve, and she cut me a piece. Not a flower, not a seed head, a piece of the root and the low stem together, the way you take a slip that will grow. And she wrapped it. Margaret, she wrapped it in a square of cloth that she damped at a butt of water by the wall, wrung out, and folded round the cutting. And she put it into my hand, and closed my fingers over it with both of her earth-coloured hands. And she said, "For her wall, since she's got the start of it coming up already, it'll be glad of its own kind. Carry it next your chest, mind, and don't let it dry, and it'll keep till you can get it to her." And she turned back to her bed, the welcome over the way the welcome had begun, with a turned back, and left me standing in the gateway of the impossible garden with a root wrapped in a damp cloth in my closed hand.
You will see it, of course. You saw it before I had finished writing the sentence. A root, from away, wrapped in a damp cloth, put into the hand of a traveller to carry to a far garden and plant by a wall. The exact thing the old woman told you the angelica was. The thing it has been since before any of us. A root, carried from somewhere no one remembers by a young woman moving to a new place. And now here it is again, the same act, and I am the carrier, and the far place is your wall, and the root is a piece of a garden where the frost does not come, and the dusk flowers open for moths from this side of nowhere, and a bed of small white faces turns to watch you out of loneliness. She has given me a piece of the far garden to carry to you, and it is in my coat now, Margaret, as I write this. I have kept it damp. I have not been able to make myself either throw it away or let it dry, which would come to the same thing, and which would feel, I find, like a small murder. It is against my chest in its cloth, not a foot from this page, and I do not know what I am going to do with it. I do not know whether to send it to you. I lie awake holding the question. To send it would be to do the kind thing, the brotherly thing, to give my sister a fine, strange plant for her wall, a present carried from her brother's new country, and it would also be to carry the long route one stage further toward your door, to set a piece of this place that takes and holds and does not let go down into your own ground, beside the angelica, where your own pale stranger is already, by Mrs. Yarrow's account, rising up to meet its kind. I cannot make the two readings sit apart. They are the same wall seen from the warm side and the cold. And so the cutting stays in my coat, damp, waiting, while its keeper lies awake being a clerk about it. And I have told you now, so that at least the figure is entered, even if I cannot yet see how to balance it. I let myself out through the old gate and shut it behind me carefully, so as not to let the warm out, and the latch fell, and I stood once more in the line where the two seasons meet, one boot in the green and one in the silver, and behind me, through the bars, the bees and the summer and the angelica, and before me, the hard, bright, frozen valley going down to the village, the church tower small below, the smoke standing straight up from the chimneys in the still, cold air. And I put my hand flat for a moment against the warm stone of the wall, the way you put a hand against the angelica, the way I put it against the cold, dead door of the bakehouse on the clear morning. And then I took my hand away and put it over the cutting in my coat to keep it warm. And I walked back down the hill into the winter. And on the way down, this is the homesick part, and I will keep it short, because you know it already. You are its other half. On the way down, with the root against my chest, I thought of the last afternoon I spent in your garden, the cornflower afternoon, 3 years and more gone. I have thought of it often out here. I told you in my first letter that it had become the dominant memory, the warm stone I carry, and it has stayed so. But I thought of it differently coming down that hill. I had always remembered it for the planting, for kneeling beside you in the dirt, pushing the cornflower seed in with my thumb while you told me I was doing it too deep, and for sitting on the bench after with the tea going cold. You see, you have always sat on that bench with the tea going cold. It is a thing you do, and now you do it thinking of me, and the symmetry of that is almost more than I can carry. And for the litany after, you going round the beds naming every green thing, the comfortable, endless catalogue of the known. That is what I had always kept. You, naming. You who knew every plant in your own ground. And coming down the hill with a piece of the far garden over my heart, I understood for the first time that the memory has turned over while I was not looking. The way a held coin warms, and you stop feeling it as separate from your hand. Because now there is a plant in your garden you cannot name. The litany has a gap in it. The woman who knew every green thing in her own ground has written to her brother to ask him, of all the useless, far-off people, whether he knows what the tall, pale stranger is. And her brother does not know either, but has spent the week in the company of someone who does, in a garden that should not exist, learning that the stranger by your wall is the far green end of a route that runs, somehow, all the way out here, to a warm place behind a cold wall on the side of a frozen hill. The cornflower afternoon was the last time the world was fully named. I did not know it was the last time. One never does. And I find I am not as grieved by that as I would have expected to be, which may be the village working in me, or maybe the long route. And I have stopped, as I keep telling you, needing to know which. I came into the village as the early dark was gathering. It gathers so soon now, Margaret. The light goes out of the afternoon like water out of a cracked basin. And I pushed in through Mrs. Pell's heavy curtain out of the cold, into the wall of warmth and firelight and the smell of supper. And the brown dog lifted his head from the hearth and put it down again, which is his way of saying he had noted my safe return and saw no need to make a performance of it. And Mrs. Pell looked at me from the fire and at the bulge of my coat where my hand was keeping the cutting warm. And she said, she did not ask, she said, "You've been up to Yarrow's then?" In the exact tone she used about the bakehouse, the tone of a woman noting that I had at last found a thing that was always there. And I said I had, and she nodded and went on with the supper, and that was the whole of it. And it was, after the strangeness of the day, as steadying as a hand on the shoulder. Supper was a long, warm business, the kind the village does well now that the cold has shut us in together. There was a pie again, a different one, root vegetables and the last of something, dark and good. And the fire was built high, and the heavy curtain kept the night out, and the talk went round in its slow circle, and at some point, the way it does, it came round to the garden, because the blue-eyed man asked me, not unkindly, whether I had found my way up to Yarrow's, and I said I had, and there was that small common murmur again, and then they talked about Mrs. Yarrow for a while in the way they talk about all their strangenesses, which is to say, not as strangenesses at all, but as fixtures, as weather, as the well-being where the well is. Edwin said, without looking up from the new grey thing, that Mrs. Yarrow had given her mother a root of something once, for a cough that wouldn't leave, and that it had grown into a plant they still had, that flowered blue at dusk, and that her mother swore by. And I thought of the moth comfort, the grey velvet leaves, and the deep dusk blue flowers that open only for the moths, and said nothing, and held the small private joy of knowing what plant Anwen's mother had by her door, which is the kind of small private joy this place hands you when you have been paying attention. The old woman by the fire said the far garden had been there longer than the church, which cannot be true, and which no one contradicted. And Hartle, who almost never speaks, said from behind his book in the foreign alphabet, "It is the oldest thing, older than the agreeing," and went back to his reading, and the talk moved on, and I sat with that one, older than the agreeing, turning it the way I turn them all, wondering what it could mean that the garden where everything comes from away and is held should be older than whatever agreement it is the village keeps about the time, and getting nowhere with it, and being on the whole content to get nowhere, in the warm, with the dog on my boots and the pie in me, and your letter in my coat against the damp cloth of the cutting. I will give you only one noticing this week, Margaret. The way I have settled into doing. One thing I caught of my own accord, kept for you, and will not make too much of. I went up after supper, later than I have been going up, reluctant to leave the fire, and I lit the lamp in the cold room, and I took the cutting out of my coat, and set it on the desk in its damp cloth, by the cornflower basin, where your letter stands propped, the cutting from the far garden, and your letter with its stranger by the angelica, side by side on my little desk, which I noticed and did not know what to feel about, and so left alone. And I cracked the window the way I keep it, for the air and for the church's low sound, and I sat down to begin this letter to you. And after a while, the room cold, the lamp low, the frost already feathering the corners of the glass, there came a small sound at the window, a soft, blunt, repeated tapping, and I thought it was a moth, though it is far too cold now for moths. And I got up and brought the lamp to the glass, and it was a bee. A single bee, Margaret, on the outside of my frosted window, in the hard, black, killing cold of an October night, with the frost thick on the valley, bumping at the lit glass, slow and stupid with the cold, but alive, working its way along the gap where I had cracked the window, drawn to the lamp or to the warmth or, I will say it to you and to no one else, to the smell of the angelica cutting on my desk, the far garden's green, resinous smell leaking out into a night where no bee has any business being alive. There are no bees in this valley in late October, except in one place, behind a wall, where it is always June. And one of them was at my window in the dark, a mile and more from that wall, where I had carried, against my chest, a piece of the warm. I did not let it in. I want to tell you that I thought about it, that I stood there with my hand on the cold window catch and genuinely weighed whether to open the gap and let the cold, slow creature into the warm of my room, where it would have lived another hour perhaps, drawn to the cutting, and then died on my floor far from its impossible garden. And that I decided not to, and that the deciding not to felt obscurely like the same decision as not sending you the cutting, like a small holding of a line I cannot fully explain even to myself. I watched it a while. It bumped and crawled and bumped, and then it was gone, off the lit square into the dark, back toward the wall, I suppose, or down into the frost to die. I will never know which. And I stood at the window a long time after looking at the place where it had been, and at my own dim face hanging in the dark glass behind the frost feathers. And that is the noticing, and I have kept it for you, and I will not make it mean anything except that there was a bee at my window in the killing frost, and I have a piece of the only warm place it could have come from sitting on my desk, and that I noticed, and that noticing is still, I have decided, the thing I am holding on to hardest of everything out here. The proof that some clerk's lamp is still lit in me, that I have not gone wholly soft and warm and unwatchful, that a man can lose the count of his days and still be the kind of man who sees the bee. It is very late now, and the fire, I brought a few coals up after all. I have grown soft about the cold of this room. The fire has gone to the good orange, and the cutting is damp on the desk, and your letter stands beside it, and the window is cracked, and the frost is at it, and a while ago the church made its low sound out in the cold, nearer seeming again, the long note that is not the bell, and I lay and listened to it with the bee still in my mind, and was not afraid, and have begun to think that the not being afraid is itself the thing I should perhaps be most afraid of, and have decided, again, as I decide every night now, that I do not have to settle that tonight in order to sleep. I have kept the hardest part for last, the way you keep the hardest part for last, and I have only understood while writing all the rest of it down that the plant was not, in fact, the only chair out of place in your letter. There was a second one, smaller, that I read past on the first night and the second, and only saw on the third, the way you sometimes do not see a thing until you have stopped looking for it. You wrote of the new pale stranger by the Angelica, and I have the sentence by heart now. I have read it so many times, that it came up the night after I wrote you last. I'm near sure, though I've stopped keeping the days so careful these weeks. Stopped keeping the days so careful. Margaret, you are the most careful keeper of days I have ever known. You are the one who taught me, when we were small, the trick of the knuckles for the lengths of the months. You are the one who never in my whole life forgot the date of a thing that mattered, and several that did not. You are the woman who can tell me, I have no doubt, the exact afternoon 3 years ago that we planted the cornflowers, while I can tell you only that the tea went cold. The keeping of days close is as much you as the naming of plants is you. And in the same letter, the very same letter, in which you cannot name a plant in your own ground, you tell me, lightly, in passing, as a small excuse for not being sure of a date, that you have stopped keeping the days so careful these weeks. The two anchors of you, the naming and the numbering, both come a little loose in the same letter, in the same few weeks. The same weeks, Margaret, in which the very same two things have come loose in me, out here, at the far end of the route. I stopped counting the days. A thing came up that I cannot name. And now, a world away,
in your kitchen, in your garden. The woman who anchors my whole picture of the real has written to tell me, without knowing she is telling me anything at all, that she has begun, in these same weeks, to do the same two things. I do not know what to do with that. I am not going to pretend to you that I have a wise place to put it, because I have spent 3 nights looking for the wise place and have not found it. And you are the one person I have never been able to perform wisdom for. Here is the plain shape of my fear. Set down once, and then I will set it down, and we will both sleep. That the root is reaching you. That what I came out here carrying, the tiredness, the wanting to set the sum down, the readiness to let the count go that the village found in me already half grown and only had to warm, that this is not only mine, and was perhaps never only mine, and that whatever has taken me so gently by the wrist out here may run, by the long underground way that Mrs. Yarrow swears nothing ever truly travels but only seems to, all the way back to the bed I grew in, to you, who are joined to me at the root however far I have been carried, and that you have begun, without leaving your kitchen, without doing anything but keeping my chair-shaped quiet and sitting on the bench with the cold cup and thinking of me, to lose your count and your names along with me. That I have, only by being your brother and going away and taking, somehow reached back and loosened your grip on the very things that make you, you.
And here is the other face of the same wall, the warm side, because I promised you I would always give you both. And because I have found, these 3 nights, that I cannot hold the fear without it, or I would not sleep at all. That it is also simply love. That a sister and a brother joined at the root might be expected to come loose from the world's hard arithmetic at the same time, in the same season, each thinking of the other. That your stopping the count, and my stopping the count, might not be the root taking you, but only the plain old human fact that we are bound, that what moves in me moves in you, that you have stopped keeping the days so careful, for the most ordinary and least uncanny reason in the world, which is that your brother is far away and unwell in a way neither of us can name, and you are sitting on a bench with a cold cup thinking of him, and a person thinking hard about someone who is elsewhere does, of course she does, lose a little of her grip on what day it is. That the unnamed plant is a volunteer, and the loosened days are grief, and the whole rhyme is only the rhyme that has always run between us, that ran between us in that kitchen our whole childhood, and that I am a man who has spent a week in an impossible garden being told beautiful, frightening things by a woman with a twig in her hair, and has come home and read too much into his sister's tired sentence about a date. Both of these are true, Margaret. That is what I have learned out here, above everything else. That they are both true, the frightening and the comforting, the same wall, and that the village's whole secret is the holding of both at once, without needing to choose, and that I am, God help me, learning to do it. So this is what I am going to hold, and ask you to help me hold, because I cannot do it alone, and you are the other end of the root. Keep writing to me. That is still the whole of it, underneath everything, the thing I asked you for last week, and ask you again harder this week. Write, and keep writing, because your letters are my count. I told you so, and it is truer now than it was, but I am going to add one thing to the asking, and it is this. When you write, tell me the date. Put it at the top, the way we were taught, the careful, numbered date. Even if you have stopped keeping the days close, even if you have to go and look at the service's calendar on the wall to find it, not because I will check it. I cannot check it. I have lost the means. The days do not line up out here, and I no longer try to make them. But because the act of your writing the date, of your reaching for the count on purpose, for me, will be your hand on the root from your end. Your small, deliberate holding on. The answer to my holding on out here. Let us keep each other's count, since neither of us can quite keep our own anymore. You write the date, and I will read your hand. And between the two of us, across whatever distance your letters cross so impossibly fast, we will hold the thread tight enough that neither of us drifts off the known end of the bridge into the white. That is the bargain I am proposing. The naming I cannot help you with. I have looked at your stranger through Mrs. Yarrow's eyes, and I am no surer than you what it is. Only surer than I would like to be where it came from. But the numbering we can do for each other. Write me the date, Margaret. I will know the year by it, and by your hand, and by nothing else. And it will be enough. And it will be, more than that, a rope thrown.
As for the cutting, I have decided tonight, while writing to you, that I am not going to send it. Not yet. Not until I understand better what I would be doing if I did. It is a beautiful thing, and it would be a fine gift, and it may be only a plant. But a man does not, having spent a week learning what I have learned, carry a piece of the far garden the last stage of its journey, and set it in his sister's ground, beside the very stranger that is, by the keeper's own account, already rising to meet its kind, without first being very sure of what he is about. So I will keep it. I will keep it damp on my desk by your letter, and I will look at it, and when I know, if I come to know, I will do whatever the knowing tells me, and not before. You have a stranger by your Angelica already. You do not need your brother posting you another from 100 miles off in the dark. If you want a plant for your wall, Margaret, I will bring you one myself, in my own 2 hands, when I come. And I am still coming. I told you so, and I meant it, and I mean it more tonight than I did last week. And we will plant it together, kneeling in the dirt, you telling me I am doing it too deep, and we will both, at last, know its name. It is very late now, later than I have kept us up in some weeks, and the good orange of the fire has gone to grey at the edges, and the frost has closed over the whole of my window, so that there is nothing beyond it but a soft, white blindness. The night gone the way the foggy mornings go, the world taken away and held somewhere safe to be given back. I am going to do the things I do. I am going to wash my face in your cornflower basin, in the cold water, which wakes me enough to sleep, if that makes any sense. And out here it does. I am going to bank the fire the way Edwin taught me, which is a small competence I am absurdly proud of, a thing I can do now with my hands that I could not do a season ago. I am going to lie down in the narrow, friendly bed under the green and rust quilt and listen to the white, and somewhere in the listening I will go over, the way I do, into sleep, which has stopped being the difficult country it was for me at home, and become, out here, the easiest place I know.
Thank you for the letter, Margaret. Thank you for leading with the boys, for the clothes-peg town with the church at the edge where you can hear it but not see it, for father's talk boiled down to its kind part, for the cat enforcing his moral position, for the snail shell in the matchbox lined with the flannel you have decided not to miss. Thank you, even, for the chairs out of place, for the plant you could not name and the days you have stopped keeping close. Because you put them in, you did not tidy them away before you sent the letter. You trusted me with the loose things as well as the sound ones, and that trust is the warmest rope of all the soft ropes that hold me. And thank you, most of all, and as always, for being the fixed far end of the route, for being there to write to, for being the count I keep instead of the days. Remember the bargain. Write me the date. Reach for it on purpose, your hand on the thread from your end, and I will read your hand and know the year, and we will keep each other's count across the impossible distance, since neither of us, it seems, can any longer quite keep our own. The cutting stays in its cloth on my desk. I will not send it. I will bring you a plant in my own 2 hands when I come, and we will name it together kneeling in the dirt. Keep the bench. Move the cold cup along. I am coming home by a road that takes longer than it should. Longer, perhaps, than I yet understand. But I have not stopped, for 1 hour of this strange, unnumbered season, meaning to walk it. Sleep well, Margaret. Put the date at the top. I will be reading for it.
Your brother, held here by soft ropes and a long route, and still, underneath all of it, only yours, Edwin.
Postscript. I almost did not add this, and then thought that not adding it would be the comfortable kind of lie. So here it is, in the cold morning, before I seal the letter and carry it down to Mr. Thresher. I went to my desk just now to fold these pages, and I looked, as I have looked every morning since I brought it home, at the cutting in its damp cloth. And it has put out a shoot, Margaret, in the night, on a cold desk in a cold room, wrapped in a cloth and planted in nothing at all, with no earth and no warmth and no light but the banked grey fire. A single pale tip has come up out of the cut end of that root, fine and pale and curled like a held breath, the way a thing comes up that means to grow whatever you do or do not do about it. One night, no earth. I have never in my life seen a slip take so fast, and I have, you will remember, watched you root a great many things, slowly, with care, in good soil, in the proper season. This one did not wait for any of that. It came up pale, in the dark, beside nothing, except your letter, which stands next to it on the desk, with its tall, pale stranger risen beside your angelica in the same way, in the same week, at the 2 far ends of the same route. I am looking at the 2 of them now as I write this, the shoot and the sentence, side by side. I have not decided what it means. I have decided only that I noticed, and that I will not pretend I didn't, and that I am going to keep the cutting damp a little longer, and watch what the pale tip does, and tell you. Put the date at the top of your next one. I find I want, rather badly this morning, to know what day it is where you are.